Okay, so final video on contouring. If you are trying to make your forehead look taller or wider, right? Essentially what I'm going to do in this video is show you what happens when you reverse everything that I did in the last video. So instead of contour up here, I'm actually going to add highlight, and I'm starting with my highlight. I'm going to highlight that whole edge into my hairline there. And I want my forehead to look wider. So instead of putting contour, I'm going to highlight. Which, because this highlight is so white, looks like I'm actually doing a 17th century makeup, but I promise that's not the goal. Not right now anyway. Right, and I'm even going to take this highlight down in between my brows and kind of onto the bridge of my nose a little bit, just to really sell that wider, taller forehead. And then I'm just barely adding contour here in the center, just barely. Because what I don't want to do is accidentally shrink my forehead down. Right. What that's going to do is start to lengthen my face out. Okay. Then moving down to the eyes. Last time I tried to make them look like they had narrowed in and were closer together. The opposite now. This is sort of more what your basic contouring application tries to do. You want them to look further apart and wider. So again, where I had put the contour before, now that's where I'm going to add lots of highlight, and I'm actually going to bring it up to the edge of my nose there. And then I am extending the contour out on the edges the same way I would have done, creating that crease like I did in the basic contouring application. Careful not to close all that off. And careful not to get into and touch the corner of my eye with that contour. Right, because what I'm doing is creating a fake eyelid, essentially. So making my eyes appear as though they have moved further out from where my nose is. Now, if I wanted to contour my nose to actually look longer and wider, taking from where I've got that highlight that I did on my forehead and moving down, I'm going to extend the highlight out toward the side of my nose. And then I'm actually going to bring that whole strip of highlight down over the tip of my nose and down underneath. So this is going to make my nose look wider by doing this. It's also going to make it look longer. All right, that's a key thing to remember. Highlight will always push a feature forward. Contour is always going to move it backward. And then the corresponding contour would move further down the side of my nose. Then there'd be very little of it. Just kind of coming into those edges. Truthfully, I always think this kind of face shape changing works best on the nose. I think it's a lot harder to pull off anywhere else. But it does work. I mean, we use this all the time. We use it in film all the time. We use it to paint old age. And so this is kind of how that starts. All right, we're doing this. Man, that is a white highlight. I cannot. It's just so white. Oh, goodness. I'll try to tame that a little bit. Right, and then if I wanted my nostrils to look wider, again, I would just paint that highlight out in there. Paint that highlight out. And so that's just going to widen out my whole nose by doing that. And then of course I can still accentuate the tip a little bit, but what I want to be careful about is that I don't get into this center section, because if I get into that section, then I will no longer be able to create the appearance that my nose is longer. So these are also all really useful techniques when you're trying to create a character. If you're trying to show something specific, as human beings, we still take a lot of our cues about somebody's personality from how they appear to us visually. And so by shortening features, you can make people look a certain way and make us believe certain things about them more readily. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about makeup for your different characters. These are ways that you can kind of subtly play with those character choices. All right, now to make my lips look larger, you are actually, it's easier to do this with color, I feel like. And so I'm going to just take a little bit of the color out of here, a little bit of this blush color. And what I'm going to do before I do anything, I'm going to paint my natural lip and get that color on there. All right. Now for me, the reason I do it this way is because it's a lot easier for me to see what I need to do next. And I paint that natural lip. All right. But now that I have my natural lip painted, I'm actually going to take that color up higher, right outside. Where my lip is. And kind of over the natural highlight that exists there. Right. This is known as overdrawing. It's actually a lot easier to do using a lip liner than it is to just use straight lip color, but I don't have a lip liner right next to me, so we're just gonna do it like this. All right. So I'm gonna draw that. So you can already see, even with the kind of outside blurry effect, my lip starts to look larger, and I can do the same thing on the bottom. And go around those corners. And so I'm just taking that lip color down past my natural lip line. Once I have done that, this is a terrible lip color also, so there's that. But use what you have in order to show what this looks like, right? So once I've done that, now just gonna get my brush cleaned out of lip color. I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna line those natural highlight areas. Going above where they naturally occur. You can see my highlight got a little too high there. So just go back in and draw back over that with lip color. And then I'm gonna take that contour and very carefully, you don't want to do too much of this. And it's gonna look a little clownish because these are really not the right colors. They're not quite subtle enough, but it gives you the idea. You can get those artificial lip corners worked in. I mean, you could even do that with foundation. And there you go. Gives you fuller looking lips, right? So it's way more visible with a different lip color or when you do this with lip liner, and I didn't go very far outside where my natural lip is. And that's something you want to be careful about too. If you choose to do something like this, you really can't go super far outside what naturally exists. Because if you go too far outside, then it looks like a clown's mouth, like it's been painted on. So you can really only go just above and not much further before it starts to look really, really fake or like bad plastic surgery. All right, let's see if I can make that look a little taller. But there you go, fuller lips. Okay, and then jawline. So my goal here is really just making my whole face look longer and possibly wider. So I'm going to actually drop my highlight down underneath my jawline a little bit. And I'm going to bring highlight all the way down under my chin and up over my chin. All right, so where I would normally put my jaw contour, I'm actually highlighting. And what you're doing when you do this, you're actually making your natural shadows reflect more light by adding this highlight color. And so it's taking away natural shadows from your face. That's part of why we're reversing where things go, just so you see what that looks like. And so now that's going to make my face longer because I've got highlight from top to bottom. I've got it coming up over the jawline and going just underneath. Although again, this highlight is so white that really it's closer to clown makeup or 17th century makeup, but you get the idea. Right, now that I have that on my face, I can go in and I can actually move my contour back a little bit. Again, you can't go too far with this, because if you go too far, it's really clownish. It doesn't work because that's just not where the muscle and bone structure of your face live. So you have to be really careful about where you position this kind of thing. But in certain lighting situations, certain houses, this can do a lot to create a different character effect. Right. And there. By doing that, I have now made my face actually look rounder, which is the goal. Not my real life goal, but my goal for this video. And it's also actually going to appear a little bit longer, particularly on stage. Though I have to say, I really despise how white this highlight is. I mean, wow. I hadn't really realized until I started using it just how white this is, and this is not my highlight. So there you go. That is just some tips and tricks and things that you can do if you really want to get into character work and really making your contour work for you. Looking at that, I always forget I'm blind in that left eye, and it tends to be a little bit smaller, so I have to add more highlight on that side than I would on this side to balance things out. Not that it's ever really balanced, but you get the idea, right? I hope you get the idea. So that's the end of your contouring videos, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you actually have some fun with this, because it is kind of cool to try and change your face shape a little bit, at least to experiment with what it can look like. So good luck, everybody.